Clara Whitmore had stopped believing in sudden love. At 42, she believed in routine, in quiet mornings with black coffee, in finishing design drafts before deadlines, in paying her own bills. Her condo in Seattle faced the water, and every evening she watched the sky change colors alone. She told herself she liked it that way, peaceful, predictable, safe. But sometimes, when the city lights blinked on and the room grew silent, she felt the weight of something missing. Not excitement, not drama, just someone steady. Someone who understood the language of her pauses. Daniel Brooks entered her life without noise. It happened at a friend's dinner party in a townhouse filled with soft music and polite laughter. Clara almost didn't go. She had work to finish and wasn't in the mood for small talk. But she went anyway, wearing a simple navy dress, her hair loosely tied back. She expected the usual conversations, jobs, traffic, weather. Instead, she met a man who listened. Daniel was 45, a history teacher with calm eyes and a patient smile. He didn't dominate the room. He didn't try to impress anyone. When Clara mentioned she worked in interior design, most people nodded politely and changed the topic. Daniel didn't. He asked what kind of spaces she enjoyed creating. She explained how she liked turning cold rooms into warm ones, how lighting could change a person's mood, how colors could tell quiet stories. He didn't interrupt. He didn't glance around the room looking for someone more interesting. He focused on her as if what she said truly mattered. That was the first touch, not his hand, not his shoulder. His attention. Clara felt it in her chest. She wasn't used to being heard without being corrected or advised. In her past marriage, conversations often turned into debates. Her ex-husband liked solutions. He liked control. Daniel simply nodded and said, "That must take a lot of patience." His voice was soft but sure. The sentence was simple, yet it felt like a door opening. He understood that her work wasn't just about furniture. It was about care. And in that moment, Clara felt seen not as a divorced woman, not as someone starting over, but as herself. After dinner, he walked her to her car. The air was cool. Streetlights cast gentle shadows on the pavement. They didn't flirt. I didn't rush. They spoke about small things, favorite books, the comfort of rainy Sundays. Oh, Seattle's gray skies could feel peaceful instead of sad. Before she got into her car, he said, "I'd like to continue this conversation sometime." No pressure. No charm rehearsed to perfection. She surprised herself by saying yes. Their first official date was at a quiet café near Pike Place Market. Clara arrived 5 minutes early, telling herself she wasn't nervous. Daniel was already there, standing when she walked in. He smiled like he was genuinely glad she came. They ordered coffee and found a corner table by the window. Clara talked about a challenging client who kept changing her mind about a project. Daniel listened carefully. When she finished, instead of criticizing the client or offering advice, he asked, "What do you think she's really looking for?" The question caught her off guard. He wasn't solving the problem for her. He was exploring it with her. That was when she noticed something important. Being around him didn't feel heavy. It felt calm. Her shoulders weren't tight. Her voice wasn't guarded. As they left the cafe, the sidewalk was crowded. Without thinking, Daniel placed his hand lightly at the center of her back to guide her through the people. The touch was brief and respectful. It wasn't possessive. It wasn't claiming. It was steady. Clara felt warmth rise to her cheeks. She hadn't realized how long it had been since a touch felt safe. In her past, physical gestures sometimes carried expectation. This one carried reassurance. It said, "I've got you," without saying anything at all. Over the next few weeks, they saw each other regularly. Walks by the water, casual dinners. A bookstore visit where they argued playfully about which novels were overrated. Clara found herself laughing more than she had in years. Daniel never tried to be someone else. He spoke openly about teaching, about his students, about how history mattered because it showed how people survived hard times. One rainy Thursday, while standing under the awning outside her office, Clara mentioned she loved maple cinnamon lattes from a tiny cafe nearby. She said it casually, almost joking about how it was her small weakness during stressful days. She forgot about it by Monday, but Daniel didn't. That morning, as Clara stepped out of her building, she saw him waiting near the entrance, holding 2 cups. Steam rose into the cold air. He handed one to her. "I figured Mondays deserve something better," he said. She stared at the cup, then at him. It wasn't about the drink. It was about the fact that he had listened days ago and remembered. No one had done that in a long time. Her heart reacted before her mind could stop it. That scared her. Clara had promised herself she would be careful. After her divorce 3 years earlier, she had rebuilt her confidence slowly. She learned to enjoy her own company. She created a life that didn't depend on anyone else's mood. Falling in love again meant risk. It meant vulnerability. It meant possibly losing the peace she fought so hard to regain. Yet Daniel wasn't disturbing her peace, he was adding to it. One evening, they attended a small art exhibit downtown. The gallery lights were soft, and the walls displayed bold modern paintings. Clara stood in front of a large canvas filled with deep blues and gold streaks. She explained how the artist used contrast to show emotion. Daniel stood beside her. "Listening closely, you see stories in everything," he said quietly. Maybe she replied, or maybe I just looked too deeply. "I think that's a strength." Those words settled into her heart. In her marriage, she had often been told she was too sensitive, too emotional. Hearing someone call it a strength felt like healing. As they moved through the gallery, the room grew crowded. Again, Daniel's hand rested gently at her back. This time, she leaned slightly into it. She didn't pull away. Later that night, as he walked her to her door, there was a pause, the kind that carries possibility. Clara felt a tension between wanting to step closer and wanting to protect herself. Daniel didn't rush forward. He didn't push the moment. "I've really enjoyed getting to know you," he said. She searched his eyes for impatience. She found none. "I've enjoyed it too," she admitted. He smiled, then stepped back slightly. "Good night, Clara." He left her standing there with her heart beating faster than it had in years. Inside her condo, she leaned against the door and let out a slow breath. She knew something was changing. Not dramatically, not wildly, but steadily. Daniel had touched her life in ways she hadn't expected. He listened without interrupting. He guided without controlling. He remembered without being reminded. And each small gesture chipped away at the wall she had carefully built around her heart. Still, doubt lingered. Could she trust this feeling? Could she allow herself to hope again as she stood on her balcony? Later that night, watching the city lights shimmer on the water, her phone buzzed with a message. "I hope you got home safe. Sleep well." Simple, thoughtful, consistent. Clara smiled at the screen, unaware that the next steps in their story would test her fears and deepen her feelings in ways she never imagined. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving, she was beginning to feel alive again. Clara tried to move slowly, but love has its own rhythm. After weeks of quiet dinners and long walks, she felt something steady building between her and Daniel. It was not loud. It was not wild. It was calm, like a river that keeps flowing. No matter the season. She liked that. She trusted that. Still, part of her stayed careful. She had learned that peace could disappear if she held it too tightly. One Friday evening, Daniel invited her to a small gathering at his friend Mark's house. Clara almost said no. Social events still made her uneasy. In her past marriage, she often felt invisible in crowded rooms. But Daniel's voice over the phone was warm. "It'll be simple," he said. "Just a few friends. I'd like you there." The way he said it made her feel chosen, not pressured. So she agreed. The house was filled with soft music and casual laughter. Clara wore a deep green dress and kept her posture straight, reminding herself she belonged anywhere she stepped. Daniel introduced her to everyone with quiet pride. "This is Clara. She's an incredible designer." He didn't exaggerate. He didn't brag. He just stated it like a fact. She felt a small spark of gratitude. Later that night, while people stood around the kitchen island sharing stories, someone joked, "Clara seems too independent to ever settle down." The comment was said lightly, but it carried an old echo. Clara had heard that before. Too strong, too self-sufficient, too much. She felt the familiar urge to laugh it off. Before she could speak, Daniel did. His tone stayed calm. "Independence is strength," he said. "It means she chose her life. That's something to respect." The room went quiet for a second. Then the conversation shifted. Clara looked at him, surprised. He wasn't angry. He wasn't dramatic. He simply protected her dignity without asking for credit. That moment touched her deeply. A mature woman notices when a man honors her in public. She doesn't forget it. On the drive home, she stared out the window at the passing streetlights. "You didn't have to say that," she told him softly. "I wanted to," he replied. "You deserve that." Her heart moved closer to him. Right then days passed, and their connection grew stronger. They talked about real things, now past mistakes, fears, hopes. One evening, Clara grew quiet during dinner. An old memory had surfaced earlier that day. She had run into her ex-husband at a grocery store. The brief encounter reopened a door she thought was sealed. Old disappointment crept in. Old doubt followed. Daniel noticed the change in her mood. "Something on your mind?" he asked gently. She hesitated. Part of her wanted to pretend everything was fine. Another part was tired of pretending. "I saw someone from my past today," she admitted. "It brought back things I'd rather forget." Daniel nodded. He didn't demand details. He didn't question her strength. "If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here," he said. "If not, that's okay too." That was it. No pressure. No need to fix her. They finished dinner quietly. Later, as they walked along the waterfront, he kept pace beside her without filling the silence. His presence felt like a steady light in the dark. Clara realized something important. He wasn't trying to compete with her past. He was giving her space to heal from it. That invisible touch patience wrapped around her heart. A few weeks later, Clara closed the biggest design deal of her career. She had worked months on the project, long nights, careful planning. When the contract was finally signed, she felt proud but tired. She called Daniel first. "You did it," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm taking you to dinner. No arguments." They met at her favorite restaurant overlooking the water. The sky was painted with gold and orange as the sun began to set. During dinner, Daniel didn't shift the focus to himself. He asked about her strategy, her ideas, her creative risks. He listened like it mattered. When the waiter left, Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. His grip was warm and steady. "I admire how hard you work," he said. "You inspire me." The words were simple, but they carried weight. He wasn't threatened by her success. He wasn't trying to compete. He celebrated her strength as if it were a shared victory. Clara felt something settle inside her. In her marriage, success had sometimes created tension. Achievements were measured and compared. With Daniel, there was no scoreboard. There was partnership. After dinner, they walked slowly along the pier. The wind was cool, and the water reflected the fading light. Clara slipped her hand into his without thinking. This time, she was the one reaching. He squeezed gently. That night, back at her condo, they stood on the balcony watching the city glow. The world felt still. Clara rested her head against his shoulder. She didn't feel guarded. She didn't feel uncertain. She felt safe. Daniel turned slightly toward her. For a second, she thought he might say something serious, something heavy. Instead, he leaned down and placed a soft kiss on her forehead. It was not rushed. It was not filled with expectation. It was pure affection. The gesture surprised her. It carried respect more than desire. It said, "I value you." Said, "I'm not here for a moment. I'm here for you." Clara closed her eyes. A quiet emotion rose in her chest. Fear, not doubt. Relief. After he left that evening, she stayed on the balcony alone for a while. She replayed every step of their journey in her mind. The listening, the remembered coffee, the protective hand in the crowd. The way he defended her without making a scene. The patience during her silence. The pride in her success. The gentle kiss that felt like a promise without pressure. She realized love at her age was different. It was not built on fantasy. It was built on consistency. The next weekend, Daniel invited her on a short trip to Vancouver. Nothing fancy, just a quiet hotel near the harbor and a plan to explore the city. Clara agreed, surprising herself again. The old version of her would have hesitated. The new version felt ready. On the ferry ride across the water, they stood side by side at the railing. Wind moved through her hair. Daniel pointed out distant mountains and shared small facts about the region's history. She listened, smiling. She liked how his mind worked. She liked how calm he remained, even when the boat rocked slightly. At one point, she looked up at him and asked, "Why are you so patient with me?" He seemed thoughtful. "'Cause you're worth patience," he answered. "And because I'm not in a hurry." That sentence settled everything. Clara understood then that mature love is not about chasing excitement. It is about choosing someone every day. It is about touches that speak louder than grand speeches. That evening in Vancouver, they walked along the harbor as lights shimmered across the water. Clara stopped and faced him. "I was afraid to fall again," she admitted. "I worked hard to rebuild my life." Daniel stepped closer, but kept his voice steady. "I'm not here to replace your strength," he said. "I'm here to stand beside it." Tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of pain. They were tears of release. She no longer felt like she had to protect herself from him. She moved into his arms, resting her cheek against his chest. His heartbeat was calm, steady, real. In that embrace, Clara understood the truth. A mature woman does not fall for charm alone. She falls for the man who listens when she speaks. The man who respects her in front of others. The man who waits when she needs space. The man who celebrates her success. The man whose touch feels like home. Under the quiet Canadian sky, with the harbor lights glowing behind them, Clara made a silent choice. She let herself love him fully, not because she needed him, but because, with him, love felt safe again.